What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Panda here. And guys, we just finished up stream and we got some really cool information that dropped today in the event calendar. So if you didn't already know, starting on Friday, we do have the 2-time summons for both the Invocation of Spirits, which is your blue summons, as well as the Divine summons, which are your gold summons, right? But also on Saturday the 18th, we have ancient summons coming, and this time we are going to be having a 10 times for Laya, or Leia, however you want to say it, and Gon, which are two crazy good 5-star lords. So today I wanted to dive in and kind of talk about whether I'm going to summon, whether you should summon, etc. So let's go ahead and go over Leia first. She is the Lord of the Watcher faction. She is a magic damage dealing healer, which healers don't deal damage typically, but we'll see. Talent here is every 3 basic attack increases the next basic attack's healing by 50%. So basically, attack speed, just like a normal healer, is going to be really good on her because she'll get more and more healing based on every 4th basic, basically. Let's go ahead and dive right into her healing. So she is an attack-based healer. I would love to have her because I don't have a really good attack-based healer, and I have some really good attack-based healer pieces of gear, so could be very, very good. If I could pick her up, that would be awesome. Then we go into her ultimate, which is Divine Grace. It's a 1200 cost, 500 start. It restores 10% rage for all allies in range immediately. Afterwards, restores 1% rage for them every 2 seconds, lasting for 10 seconds. This effect doesn't affect the hero's rage. And this goes up to, 1.6% rage regen, and it goes down to every second. It also drops to 1,000 cost, so it's a pretty relatively cheap, I would say, ultimate, which is really awesome. Hopefully, if you build her with enough attack speed and enough rage regen, she can have it up regularly. And just getting 10% rage right off the bat, and then generating, again, this goes up to 1.6, and it drops down to 1 second. So you're getting 10 times 1.6, which is 11. I think 11.6 rage. I think it is. Let's double check that math. Or I'm sorry, no, 16, not 1. I don't know why I was thinking 11.6. It's 16% rage. So basically, this gives you roughly 26% rage, which is pretty nice. I mean, I would say that's a pretty nice ultimate. Definitely not bad. Then we go into her first passive, which is Celestial Ascendance. When the ultimate is triggered, applies a damage increase to all allies in range and increase their damage by 5% every 5 seconds, stacking up to 1 time. The effect lasts until the ultimate is over. So this is probably the main reason for the ultimate, I would say. Damage increase is really, really good. And this goes up even more, right? So you can get a total of 3 stacks, which means 15% damage. And it happens every 2 seconds. So basically after 6 seconds, you can have a full 15% damage boost, which is really awesome. This only lasts for 10 seconds, so it's not, super crazy. But being able to get that 10% and maybe jump straight into an ultimate and then generate that rage while you're ulting could be really nice to come out and be at a very high percent of rage already. So definitely very, very good. Then we go into the second passive, which is this. When allies in range release their ultimates, they will restore HP equal to 150% of Leia's healing multiplier, and that goes up to an additional 50%, totaling 200%, which is really, really powerful because whenever you use an ult, you're going to heal, which is really, really good. It's just kind of like free passive healing that she allows every character to have, no matter where they are. They don't have to be right next to her. They can be anywhere in her range, which is really, really good. And then we go into the Lord skill. And guys, this Lord skill is probably where the rest of her kit sounds even better. Obviously, you get that 15% allies basic attributes for anyone that's in the Watcher faction, which includes Idril, which I think is the main reason why I'd really, really like to have her. You have the periodically increased damage and healing multiplier by 30% instead of 20% for Ein, for example, who we get for free, for 20 seconds. The more faction allies there are on the team, the more frequently it takes effect. This is the big one down here, though. When any faction ally is healed, their damage will increase by 15% for 10 seconds. So I want you guys to think this through real quick, okay? You've got Leia. She's in your Lord slot. You have, let's just talk Idril specifically, because she's a pretty common champion that you're going to use within that Watcher faction. So you come down here, And what does she do? Whenever someone ults, she gets damage proc, right? Well, guess what? Whenever someone ults, they heal. Whenever they heal, they get a damage boost, right? So now all of your champions are healing, getting a damage boost, providing more damage to Idril, right? You also have a damage increase from her ultimate and rage generation. You also have rage generation built into A3 on Idril. Just the combination of just Leia and Idril by themselves, realistically, I mean, that is a phenomenal pairing, in my opinion. But I am definitely excited for Leia. I think she is fantastic. I think she's great overall in general. You'll see she's really good in Guild Boss, really good in Faction Trials. She's used in 3, 2, 1, Tide, all these different arenas, AMR. I think she's probably best used in Guild Boss and Gear Raid 2. I think are probably like the best places. I would say Gear Raid 3 is up here probably because she would boost Idril, right? I think that's probably the most thing, and she can be used as your healer there. But yeah, I mean, I think she's a great champion. Should you pull for her? I think the answer to this is kind of dependent on a couple things. I think the first thing is, do you have a lot of watchers? If you have a lot of good watchers, like you have an A5 Idril, and you're struggling to beat some things like Gear Raid 3, and you think the damage boost from Leia will, be very good, then yeah, sure, summon for her. If you don't have a lot of watchers, you maybe haven't gotten lucky and haven't pulled an Idril somehow, or any of the other really good watcher champions, maybe she's not the greatest. However, do keep in mind that this ultimate is not based on watcher faction, neither is this passive. So ultimately, she is still just a very good healer that generates rage and applies a damage increase for everyone on your team. Her range is pretty large as well. It works really well for a guild boss if you look at the range right here. Ultimately, I would say she is definitely worth pulling for pretty much everybody. However, she has a little more value if you have those really solid watcher champions. Let's go ahead and look into our Awakens real fast, and then we'll move on to the other 10 times. So at A1, the damage increase provided by Celestial Ascendance lasts for 5 more seconds after the ultimate ends. This is great because you're going to have that additional 15% damage increase for a longer period of time, which means there's less downtime from that damage increase while you build that ult back up. Assuming you can pair her with someone like a Laurel, you may be able to have it up very, very regularly. I don't know all of the specifics of how that would work, but I think there's a good chance you could have this up potentially 70-80% of the time, which would be very, very good. A2, you get an additional 5% ally attack for the faction, as well as a flat 300 attack for Leia, which of course is nice. Base attack for her healing, not bad. Then we go to A3. The hero's ultimate can restore rage for herself as well. This right here makes it so there's almost a guarantee you're going to have this up very, very often, because she's going to give herself that 26% rage on top of having this last for 5 more seconds, right? On top of that Laurel. She's probably going to be up very regularly. I would say easily 80 to 90%. This is, of course, if you can get her to A3, which odds are you probably won't be able to get her there very quickly. Then we go to A4, and this just gives an additional rage regen per auto. Always nice, especially since we want that ultimate up as often as we can. And then at A5, when the ultimate is triggered, the damage increase applied by Celestial Ascendance to allies increases to 15%. I believe that what this means is that the stack gives you 15%, which means you're looking at 45% damage increase, which is ridiculously powerful. It is literally 300% of the original value, right? Originally you can get up to 15%. Now you're going to 45%. Correct me in the comments if that's not true. That's how I read this. And I think this is totally viable, realistic. I mean, if that's how that works, this is an A5 legendary lord, guys. Like, odds of you getting this is so low. Getting 6 legendary lords, or even a legendary lord and 5 legendary soul stones, pretty low chance of being able to get that. So definitely a fantastic unit. Highly recommend pulling for her. I think she'll be great. Then we have this guy over here, which is personally the reason why I will be summoning for my Ancients this weekend. Now, I don't have a lot of Ancients. I think I've pulled 5 in the last Ancient event, and I've built up 10 so far, so I will only get to 15 towards my pity. Odds are I won't get anything, but I think I am going to go ahead and use them because I love to pull, and also, if I were to get my hands on either Leia or Gon, I would be very happy. But let's dive into Gon's kit, which I think is just ridiculous. So the first thing I notice here is this talent. Guys, he's a defender. He is a defender, right? He is a tank. His talent means he deals damage based off of defense. Defense is a tank stat, which means that this guy, while building very tanky, is going to deal a ton of damage, which is very, very good. He also increases defense by 2% for 15 seconds each time he takes damage, capping at 30% defense. I'm unsure if this works where he just keeps refreshing, or if this works in the sense that it lasts for 15 seconds and then it resets, kind of like Deimos is tearing, right? Deimos doesn't get to 6 stacks of tearing and then stay there. He stays at 6 stacks, loses it, builds back up to 6 stacks. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. The way it's written, it kind of makes me feel like it's a permanent thing. As long as you take hits, you're going to constantly keep that up, right? And then we go into his basic. So his basic is a 3 enemy AoE that deals 70%, skilled up to 90% damage to each enemy, which means you're looking at a 270% damage basic attack, assuming you're hitting at least 3 targets, which is really, really powerful. Then we have this ultimate right here, which, guys, is crazy good. I have no other way to explain this. This is a phenomenal ultimate. Increases block by 3. Now remember, he's already a tank, which means he has a block of 3. Assuming you put something like an Olog's Wall on him, he's going to have 4. Then you add this, he can block 7 opponents, guys, which is ridiculously powerful. Getting this guy in GVG, they're never making it through, right? It's just gonna be too hard to break through before they die. Huge GVG unit, I would assume, for sure. But not only that, he also grants physical damage reduction and magical damage reduction, which at base is 30%, skills up to 50% damage reduction, and it's AoE to all allies in range for 10 seconds, which is just ridiculous to me. It also buffs up to 15 seconds, and the cost goes from 1,000 to 900, which means it's going to be up pretty regularly, I would assume, especially, again, with any of those rage boosters. It's going to be great, but that's not all. It gets better. His passive, taking damage, has a 15% chance, jumped up to 25% with passives, with skill ups, to deal 300% AoE damage, up to 500% with skill ups, up to 10 enemies, which is just crazy to me. That is a ridiculous amount of damage. 500% up to 10 enemies, guys. That's 5,000% damage. That's a lot. That's a lot of damage on a passive where taking damage, that's his goal. His goal is to tank. Crazy to me. Then we go into his second passive, which is when triggers when HP drops below 30%, and it goes up to 40% with skill ups. If the hero takes damage below 25% max HP, which I believe also goes up to 35%, I would assume, the damage will be reduced to 10. Not 10%, to 10 flat damage. So, you pop this ultimate, you're blocking 7 people. Those 7 people are hitting you one time every second, let's say. 10 seconds. So in that 10-second period, while you are ulted, you're blocking 7 people, hitting you one time a second for 10 seconds. That's 70 hits, where you're going to take 70 damage. Or 700 damage, 700 damage, which is just crazy to me. It's crazy to me. It's ridiculous. And of course it skills up to 15 seconds, so it lasts even longer. It does have a cooldown of 90 seconds, which is, I think fair for this kind of ridiculous skill right here. But yeah. And then of course he is a chaotic unit, which means his hero cost is reduced by 5, which means he only costs 14, which is crazy. He's so cheap to get. But guys, there's more. We go into his Lord skill, and of course we have that 15% faction ally basic attributes, which is of course great. Increases faction allies damage based on their lost HP up to 60% at 30% HP, which is also ridiculous, because remember, the chaotic faction is all about losing HP and being stronger with lower HP. So adding an additional 60% damage when you get down to that 30% threshold, and then popping his ultimate and taking 50% less physical and magical damage means you're going to be able to stay alive in those low HP levels for a very long time. Not only that, but faction allies also gain 20% attack and defense when HP is below 30%, which means not only are you getting 60% damage, but you're also getting 20% of your attack, which is most people's damage scaling, or your defense, which in this case is Gon's damage scaling. So ridiculously phenomenal. Even if you don't have any other chaotic units, I think he is a phenomenal unit by himself. I am 100% pulling on this 10 times for Ancients, for Gon or Leia. I would be happy with either. Let's dive real quick into the Awaken here. Insensibility's cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds. So that means instead of 90 seconds, you're at 70 seconds. I don't think I need to go any further, that it's ridiculous, right? Then we go into his Awaken 2. You get that defensive plus 200, and faction allies damage increase goes to 20%, which is great. A3, after the effective battle cry ends, the next basic attack triggers Frantic Retribution instead, dealing up to 1,000% AoE damage to a maximum of 10 enemies ahead. The AoE damage is based on the number of times this hero received damage during battle cry. So, battle cry is the ultimate. Assuming he's blocking 7 people, you're going to get this max amount of damage, which means you're going to hit for 1,000% AoE damage to 10 enemies. It's just making this passive even better, and this isn't even part of the passive, right? This is just a guaranteed thing that's going to happen after you ultimate. Then we go into A4, which just increases his damage reductions by 8%, and A5, where Battle Cry gains a bonus range. I'm not sure what that range looks like, but I would assume it makes it pretty decently long, so you're able to hit more and more people, which is really, really good. So, ultimately, guys, this video has kind of dragged on a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but that is okay because these two units are very, very powerful, and I can tell you right now that I am going to be using my 10 Ancient Summoning Crystals to pull on this weekend. Definitely look forward to a video of me pulling them. Maybe we'll get a couple more between now and then. Doubt it, but maybe we'll get something, and we'll be able to get some really awesome luck and pull something. Even just a 4-star Lord at this point would be good. But yeah, guys, that is it for me today. If you liked this video, please make sure to hit that like button and leave a comment down below of whether or not you are going to summon. I think you probably should. But then again, you don't take my word for it. Base it off your own roster. Let me know down below if you're going to summon or not, and maybe give me a reason why. If you like my content and you want to see more of it in the future, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.